Okay, so today we're going to be talking about a new way to solve quadratic equations, which is called the quadratic formula. Something you've probably heard about, but maybe not have ever done or seen before. It's going to look complicated the first few times that we do it, but you will get the hang of it, I promise. Um, to start off with, I want us to consider the equation x squared plus 7x minus 5 is equal to 0. Okay, if I were to ask you to factor that, again, you would be looking at the factors of -5 that would add up to 7, right? That's how we would normally factor these. Well, the only factors of 5 are 1 and 5, and there's no way that you can add these two together to make 7, okay? So you can't factor this one. And that's what I'm going to tell you with this essential understanding is that not all quadratics can be factored, at least in the real number system. So therefore, we need to use another method to solve them. And one such method that we're going to learn today is called the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula, it's going to look, like I said, it's going to look scary, but it's really going to not be that bad. Okay, so that's what it is. When we are solving an equation, a quadratic equation, where we have ax squared plus bx plus c, then x is going to equal negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. Again, it looks complicated, but it's really not. Okay? Always remember that a is in front of the x squared, b is in front of the x, and c is your constant. Once you know that, all you have to do is plug in the numbers into the formula and then simplify. Okay, so let's practice that. You have the quadratic 7x squared plus 8x plus 1 is equal to 0. Okay? Very first thing that we need to do is recognize what a, b, and c are. All right, so again, a is in front of the x squared term, so a is going to be 7. B is in front of x, so that is 8. And the c is the constant, which is 1. Okay, now that we have that recognized, then we just rewrite our formula, replacing each of those variables with each of these numbers. Okay, so you would have x is equal to, now negative b, so negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 8 squared minus 4 times a, which was 7, times c, which was 1, all over 2 times a, which was 7. Okay, and then we just have to simplify this. Okay, now the first step to simplifying is to simplify what's underneath the radical sign, the square root sign there. Okay, so rewriting this, we'd have negative 8 plus or minus the square root of, now 8 squared is 64. Treat this minus 4 as a negative 4 times this, okay? That's going to alleviate a lot of problems. So negative 4 times 7 times 1 is negative 28. And that is all over, and then you can go ahead and simplify the denominator as well, 14. Okay, when you do the next step, we still haven't simplified completely what's underneath the radical, so you have negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 64 minus 28 is 36 all over 14. Okay, and now you have a square root, and you take the square root of 36, and that is 6. Okay, so you end up with negative 8 plus or minus 6 all over 14. Okay, now you might be thinking, okay, what's with this plus or minus thing? Well, if you think about it, back here when we had a quadratic, right, and we factored, we usually ended up with two solutions, right? So this plus or minus actually gives us both of those solutions. So what this means, now be very, very careful. So remember, the fraction mark acts as a grouping symbol. So you have to do the entire numerator before you divide. Okay, so on one side you need to do negative 8 plus 6 all over 14. And then you need to do negative 8 minus 6 all over 14. Now don't just type it into your calculator, because I'm going to show you what happens if you just do that, okay? So let's we're just doing this. So negative 8 plus 6 divided by 14. Okay, that's wrong, because what your calculator is doing is it's doing order of operations. It's doing this division step first, and then it's adding the negative 8. Okay, well, I just said that the fraction bar acts as a grouping symbol, so really, we want to do this. Negative 8 plus 6 in parentheses, if we're going to do it all in one step, and then divide it by 14. Okay, and you actually get, if weren't afraid of fractions, negative 8 plus 6 is negative 2 divided by 14. So you actually end up getting negative 1/7. Again, don't be afraid of fractions. Just to check, negative 1/7. Oh, look at that. It's the same exact fraction, or decimal. Okay, so that one. And then over here, negative 8 minus 6 is negative 14 divided by 14 is negative 1. So those are our two answers, negative 1/7 and negative 1. Okay, so just be careful when you're typing them into your calculator, if you can't do them in your head or on paper, that you are grouping the numerator together first. Okay, so like I said, it looks complicated, but it's really not. Okay, so let's do another example together before I have you try one on your own. Okay, so here we have 3x squared minus 13x minus 10 is equal to 0, and we want to solve that using the quadratic formula again. So again, very first step we need to do is identify what a, b, and c are. A is in front of the x squared, so that's positive 3. B is in front of the x. Now be careful here. Don't make the mistake of just identifying the number. Okay, this is a negative 13. I kind of emphasized it there. So B is actually a negative 13. And C is the constant, and again, that constant is a negative 10. Okay, so don't forget your negative signs here. So then when we set up the formula, okay, negative B. Well, B is already negative. So it's negative 13, which is a positive 13, plus or minus the square root of. Now I always put this number in parentheses before I square it. Why? Because I want to make sure that I put it into my calculator correctly. I'll explain that in just a second. Minus 4 times A, which is 3, times C, which is negative 10. Again, don't forget your negative sign. All over 2 times A, which was 3. Okay, so again, you need to simplify the radical first. If you didn't put parentheses around this and you just did negative 13 squared, again, you're going to get the wrong answer. When you square a negative number, okay, it's negative 13 times negative 13. Two negatives make a positive. If you just blindly do it in your calculator like this, it is squaring the 13 and then making it negative. That's different than having a base of negative 13 and squaring it. Okay, so just a little tip. This number, after you square it, should always be positive. Okay, don't forget that. So when we rewrite this, you have positive 13 plus or minus the square root of positive 169. Negative 4 times 3 times negative 10. Right away, you should see you've got two different negatives there. This one's positive, so there are two negatives. That means your product should be positive. So negative 4 times 3 is negative 12 times negative 10 would be positive 120. All over 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, when we simplify it on the next step, you get positive 13 plus or minus the square root of 169 plus 120 is 289 all over 6. Okay, if you don't know what the square root of 289 is, type it into your calculator, you get 17. Okay, so when we rewrite this, 13 plus or minus 17 all over 6. Now that we have it just down to numbers like this, split it where you have 13 plus 17 over 6 and 13 minus 17 over 6. Okay, again, do the numerator first. 13 plus 17 is 30, divided by 6 is 5. 13 minus 17 is negative 4 divided by 6. Just reduce the fraction, you get negative 2/3. Okay, and those are the two answers you get for that. Hey, on your own, I want you to try one with some bigger numbers. Okay, negative 16x squared plus 34x plus 15. Go ahead and pause the video to do that. Hopefully you get the right answer there. Okay. Otherwise, here's the work, and those are the answers. All right. So it looks complicated. It's really not. Just plug your numbers in and be careful with your calculations. All right.